causative intention in what we would call the future. So when we have precognitive experiences, we're tapping into that causative level of reality before it becomes crystallized in the physical world.
I've published about 17 papers over the years, for instance in the Journal of the Society for Psychical Research. Quite a few of them have been on premonitions. It's because it's one of my areas of expertise and research. I've not had any problems getting them published because they're just reports of the premonition. I conducted the world's first research into lucid dreaming in the 70s for my PhD, and I managed to find a way of getting people to signal from within the dream by making eye movements. That opened up a whole new area in dream research. Because lucid dreams are those where you are perfectly aware while you're still asleep and dreaming that you are dreaming. It's an ideal environment then, of course, for experimentation. I started to study premonitions because I had what I considered to be a good premonition some years ago. I'd been doing a lot of research in the laboratory, but when this happened, I realized that these things happen in the real world, not in the laboratory. So that's when I started, and I came across a number of really good cases. One was of the Flixborough disaster. A huge chemical complex, I think it was 60-acre site, blew up. And someone that I discovered, they'd had a premonition of this lunchtime. It was what I now call a media announcement type of premonition, where you see a newscast or something, or a newspaper placard, or hear a radio program about something that hasn't yet happened. It's very weird indeed, but this is what happens, so this is what we have to report. This woman said that she heard, saw a TV announcement of an explosion at Flixborough. She told 2 reliable witnesses that lunchtime. Now this explosion didn't happen until late that afternoon. So that was one of the first cases that I investigated. Now premonitions are everywhere when you actually ask people. There are so many cases that we need to look at. They're very, very common indeed. I've studied Chris for 17 years. I've actually watched him sleep and wake up and do a sort of automatic writing. Everything's written down and he doesn't really remember much in the morning, just finds the notes there. It's quite a remarkable situation. Now, just by trial and error, he's found out what is important, and he's able to link, say, tonight's dream with something that happened yesterday, and he sees ongoing aspects. And so there may be a lot of information, but there are consistency running through it. And I think that's something he's devised. I think some people do like the attention, because there's a lot of media coverage of people who have premonitions. But I think Chris is very confident, more than most other people, about his premonitions. So it's sort of justified in a sense. But about the personality, it could be that people with certain extreme personality characteristics are also, by some sort of psychological correlation, the best psychics. So we mustn't dismiss that, oh, he's an awkward character. It could be that you need to be an awkward character in order to have really good premonitions. It can be traumatic for people who have premonitions. And most people that I've studied, they say, why me? It's some sort of burden that they carry around. They often feel guilty because they may have tried to contact authorities, but they get sort of rejected. So it's quite a burden on their shoulders, they feel. Now, Chris, over the years, I think he's actually revelled in getting his premonitions. It gives him a certain status, in a sense, and he's really refined precognitive dreaming to the nth degree. He's past that. But in others, I've seen that it can be very worrying. What I normally do is to put people who have premonitions in contact with one another so they don't feel so sort of weird in a sense. I found that he was very interested in the IRA bombings that were going on at that time. And he had made a discovery in that he could decode his dreams and find out what was going to happen at the next bombings. For instance, if he saw dogs in the dream, this represented IRA bombers. If there was snow, this meant that something was very imminent. If there were cups, this meant that certain victims. And he got very good at deciphering them, even to the extent of getting postcodes, so that BT, the code for Belfast, might come up as Big Top. So he could actually know where bombs were going to go off.